Hey guys, what's up? Again, I'm a few minutes late. It happens. I was taking care of some rather important business. Finally got a full night of sleep. Feels like first time in a while, and that's saying something considering I was up writing a hockey column until 4:30, maybe later in the morning. Anyway, unless you're new here, and Johnny apparently is not, all you got to do is drop a thing in your comments. If you're on Twitter and you're seeing this, then what you have to do is find that little periscope looking thing. It's at the bottom right of the video box, which, if I have my bearings correct, that would be right here. Like that. That's hard to do. Right there. And that's where you leave your comments, questions, whatever else it is that you have. And I have a couple of things to set up here. And then we will literally get on with the show. The Penguins are in New York tonight, 7:08 p.m. face-off against the Rangers. Tristan Jarry will be back, Mike Sullivan told reporters at Madison Square Garden this morning. Teddy Bluger will not. And that's pretty much what I reported that I was expecting after watching practice yesterday. The Pirates are in Cincinnati. They're 1-3. They won their opener. They've lost their last three. That's a 6:40 p.m. first pitch with Trevor Cahill on the mound. Try to look excited about watching Trevor Cahill pitch for your Buccos. Let me see. Oh, here it is right here. Almost ready to go. We can talk about any of that stuff. We can talk about the draft. We can talk about whatever. Anything but politics. That's just how it goes. No benefit to that. You know, there's not you'll never reach that kumbaya moment in a political discussion where you go, you know what? We're both right. It's just like nobody does that anymore. All right, should be good to go here. And on StreamYard. And here we go. Well, hello and welcome again to Afternoon Ask Anything. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. We do this every day at 1:30-ish, I guess we could say. Depends on how long it takes me to crawl out of bed and manufacture one of these things. We will be taking your questions for the next half hour or so. And I say questions. When I say questions isn't like Seinfeldian quotes, because it can be questions, comments, criticisms. I don't care. Whatever it is. Let's just talk as much as we can in this format where I'm reading your stuff out loud. Eventually, we will get to the technological point where I'll be able to take your video calls or audio calls, and we can have fun that way. In addition to doing it this way, because I know there's a lot of people for whom this is more convenient, you know, because you might or might not be doing this while you're at work. So let's get started with Paul Olajar asking, if the Steelers draft Najee Harris, what are the odds he wears 32? The odds are absolute zero. He will not be wearing 32. The Steelers have never formally retired Franco Harris's number, of course, but there are numbers that are just kind of put away. I don't believe you're going to see a quarterback wearing 12. I don't think you're going to see anybody wearing 12 for the Steelers. There are numbers like that. I'm just as curious to see how certain other recently retired numbers will be handled. Well, retired players' numbers will be handled in that regard. Like, who would want to be the next one to wear, 43? And at the same time, you got to be careful because there's only 99 possible numbers. You've already formally retired 2 of them. And you can only take it so far. By the way, on that note, I don't know if anybody's noticed this or not, but the NFL is very seriously entertaining the possibility of letting certain positions wear whatever numbers they want, meaning into single digits. So the way you see in college, like college receivers will wear like number 2 and stuff like that. It doesn't look normal. For those of you who primarily watch the NFL is considering that. And that would be interesting. Dogger asks, what would it take to get Adam Lowry out of Winnipeg? He would check all the boxes of management. Yes, he would. But the Jets are also in contention, and they're actually in a higher spot in their division than the Penguins are in theirs. The Jets are in second place, and the Jets are in second place behind the Maple Leafs, who are still the Maple Leafs. And as such, you have to consider yourself a contender in the North Division, no matter the status of Toronto. So I don't know that you're going to see Winnipeg moving parts. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to be looking much more at keeping the Jets together. Dennis Kennelly asks, yo, DK, that's the way to start your question. Edgar Santana getting DFA'd for M. Keller. Don't know much about Keller squared. Okay, hang on a second, because it's not M. Keller. Now you're going to make me look it up, what his first name is. His last name is Keller, but everyone's going to think you're talking about Mitch Keller. And that's actually not who that is. The Pirates picked up yesterday Kyle Keller from where'd he come from? From the Angels. That's where you want to be picking up scrap heap pitchers, from the Angels. Wow. Surprise Santana was cut loose. Santana had 2 major issues. One was that he was coming off Tommy John. 2 is that he cheated. He was busted for PED use last year. The Pirates did have him in spring training. He looked okay. But I would presume that the Pirates know that the rest of baseball knows that he's coming with some baggage. Good kid. I mean, I don't say many good things about cheaters. I hate cheating, and I hate cheaters when they cheat for cheating. But I didn't get the impression that he floored anybody down there. And the Pirates have so many live arms. Mike Hamilton asks, any estimate for when Gino may return to the lineup? Mike, it's a 0. Meaning my estimate. I have no idea. I did ask about him yesterday when I was at practice. He wasn't visible. And sometimes when you have players that are doing, training on their own or whatever, you'll see them around the complex. But remember that these are different times, and they don't want any NHL team, any sports team doesn't want people in the fold who don't have to be there. So don't read too much into the fact that I didn't see Malkin or Kasperi Kapanen in there, because they likely would have been told, don't come here. The fewer outside elements get brought into this environment, the safer right now. My understanding from the inside is that Malkin has a left knee injury, that it is not something that will keep him out for the season. But until he gets back on skates, you don't have anything, and he's not back on skates yet. Alan asks, will you be covering the Riverhounds this spring and summer? The answer to that right now, Alan, is no. We have to account for everything that we cover in a budget, just like any business. We have to be responsible to our company. We have to be responsible to our staff to make sure that, they stay employed and everything else. We don't operate at a deficit, unlike all of Pittsburgh's other media companies that cover sports. We're an honest business. And the way we stay there is by staying responsible like this. If anyone would like to sponsor that coverage, we're all ears. That's I had the same response to someone who asked this week about covering the Frozen Four, the NCAA College Hockey Championship, which is right here in Pittsburgh. It's like, somebody's got to pay for it. Let's see what we have here. Bobby Cochran asks, where's Taylor Hall going? I'll tell you what, Bobby. I've turned on Taylor Hall from being a guy who cast a vote for Hall in his MVP year to win the Hart Trophy with the Devils. I felt he single-handedly carried New Jersey into the playoffs. It was an extraordinary feat. to watching what he's become and then what he's done this year in Buffalo. And I know there's all different kinds of explanations and excuses for everybody with the Sabres, not least of which is the mass contraction of COVID, and we still don't know what impact that has on humans, let alone athletes. But watching him fold like this, I'm not into that. I'm not into the quitting thing. It's the same way I feel about Pierre-Luc Dubois. He quit his way out of Columbus, and, he's gone to Winnipeg, and the fact is he hasn't done much with the Jets either. And when I said that, I had people who follow me up in Manitoba going, what are you talking about? His dad is here, and he's going to be they're going to be so happy, and this is what he just wanted to get away from Tortorella. No. When you have quitting in your DNA, it's there, man. It's rooted in the Strand, And I don't know that I'd want Taylor Hall. But to answer your question, I know Buffalo's been talking with Edmonton, and everyone thinks they're in on Taylor Hall. The Islanders are another team that would be there. I see John's bringing that up down here. Yeah, I don't like to call human beings cancer, but I know what you're saying, John. John says Hall to the Islanders, which would be great because he's a cancer. Lou Lamoriello is going to do something on Long Island. The Islanders lost Anders Lee, and they have to replace him. By the way, the NHL trade deadline is Monday at 3 p.m., and virtually nothing has occurred yet. Bill Hoffman says, I think the Pens should stand pat. I sure hope you read my column today, Bill, on DK Pittsburgh Sports. If you haven't, we're going to have problems, you and I. Get on the site and take a look at it. What else do we have here? We're sticking too much on hockey here. I like to spread it around a little bit. Dennis says I would get away from Torts too. Hey, you know what, Dennis? When it's the same guy who's the common denominator in all of these things, every time Columbus gets a decent player, John says, to mix it up a little bit, say, hey, DK, will U.S. men's soccer team ever gain any prominence? What is it that they need to do? The simple answer to that, John, is that they need more Christian Pulisics. And I'm not saying that just because I know his dad and have immense respect for what that kid's been able to do for U.S. soccer from abroad, first in Germany and now in England. He's a tremendous talent. I could argue that, with all due respect to Landon Donovan and just a couple other players in U.S. soccer history, that Christian is the most talented, the most gifted, the one who made the greatest impact in the highest levels. But he can't do it alone. And the U.S. soccer system has to be able to create more of Christian. Christian was created, kids from Hershey, PA, for crying out loud. But he was created by being born into a soccer family like what his dad has fostered for years in Pennsylvania and in other parts of the Northeast. And there has to be more of that dynamic. And that's not a quick fix, man. You're getting eliminated by Trinidad and Tobago. That requires a massive fix. Alan asks if I'm planning another trip to Ireland this summer. I'm not, Alan. I made a one and I don't want to say one and done because I really love Dublin and I'd love to show it to my wife and kids. For anybody who doesn't know, I went 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I flew to Dublin just to see a concert, the reunion of the Vapors, their first show in 35 years. And I did it the night before a Steelers game in Miami. Actually flew from Dublin nonstop to Miami and made it in time for the game. Steve says, are you surprised by how many people have dismissed Ben as quarterback for the Steelers for 2021 and how he's a detriment to the team? Who's doing that, Steve? I haven't seen that or heard that. Who's doing it? Shout back at me here. I have not been exposed to this thing that you're describing. If you're talking about national shout guys, I'm sorry. That just carries no weight with me. Those people don't cover the team, and all they're trying to do is to get your attention. And by you bringing it up, they succeeded in that. Matt says, how anxious do you feel Hextall and Burke are to leave their mark on the Pens? Wow, that's a good question. Let's see. The Penguins were 4-2-1 at the time Jim Rutherford quit. And the Penguins have gone, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so apologize if I'm not going to be bang on here, but I want to say they're 16-6-1 under the new guys. And yet all the new guys have done is bring in Mark Friedman. And I could see where if you're either of them, particularly Burke, who talks about and uses terms like a Brian Burke hockey team, and you've left literally no imprint on it, that can hit the ego. I don't know if Hextall's like that. I do know that Burke is like that. And I think that what you don't want, if you're either of those gentlemen, is to come in with a mandate from ownership to make sure that you're taking care of the current team. And both Hextall and Burke have acknowledged that Mario Lemieux and Ron Burkle both want that. Not at the risk of mortgaging the future or anything like that, but the mandate is to win the Stanley Cup. If you make it through the trade deadline and you're these two guys and you have only gotten Mark Friedman, like the 19th guy on your defensive depth chart, then did you really do what you were brought in to do in 2021? Where's the Bucko questions? I see nothing here on baseball. John asks if Baylor over Gonzaga was a surprise to you. I was watching the Pirates game, man. I'm not really into non-Pittsburgh sports in general. And I didn't watch 1 millisecond of the NCAA tournament. Nothing against it. I just didn't watch it. Steve clarifies and says, I hear a lot of media types. I still don't know what that means. Tell me where you heard it. Tell me where you heard it. I have not heard that thing. Now, you know what? I'm going to go on a protest here until I get a Pirates question here. Okay, here it is. Shannon asks, where did it go wrong with Gregory Polanco? Just injuries getting the best of him or more to it? Gregory Polanco obviously has had the talent, the physique, and everything else to have been a star at the major league level. There's things that would have always been shortcomings for him, notably some of his, attention span issues and whatever. But he could have overcome that if he had found a way to harness that long swing and to stop trying to hit every ball into the sun. That's been his biggest issue. That continues to be his biggest issue. The thing that drives people the most nuts about Polanco when you're watching him is when he's got guys on second and third with nobody out and he's trying to hit the ball to Pluto. It's selfish, and even if it's not intentional, it's selfish. It's a selfish act. But then at no point over the years, at least to my knowledge, did any of his various hitting coaches, and of course he's now had a bunch in Pittsburgh, say, hey, Greg, just take something off it, man. Even this group that's in with the Pirates right now are really focused on the fact that, he's got this great exit velocity. Well, wonderful when he makes contact, which is once a week. He's 1 for 14 now with 6 strikeouts, and he's left 372 people on base already in the first 4 games alone. More Pirates. Here we go now. Can Phillip Evans play right field when Ke'Bryan Hayes comes back? If Phillip Evans can play right field, Jim, he'll be proving it on the fly. He's never done it. He's never played right field. I think that's asking a lot. Rick says, if Colin Moran stays hot, do you deal him and do you let Evans play every day at first? Okay, we're starting to go a little bit too far here. Phillip Evans hit a home run. Okay, Phillip Evans has hit well in a relatively small sample size for the Pirates. Let's not turn him into the bat that must play. I am in favor of anything that puts at least a replacement level player in right field ahead of Polanco. Polanco's killing this team, and my concern there isn't that it's going to hurt their playoff chances or something ridiculous like that. I just don't think you want him to be a drag on the process either. You'd like to see these Pirates enjoy themselves, win a handful of games the way they did in the opener, and feel good about themselves. Brian says heads or tails on Alford and Fowler, meaning Anthony Alford and Dustin Fowler, the two guys that are alternating seemingly in center field here. I've got a great big neither. Great big neither. I don't see anything there. The Pirates do not have a center fielder. Let's see what else we have here. Sahil asks, what should the Steelers go for in the first round? Absolutely running back. Absolutely. You can say this class of offensive tackles is so deep and so fantastic, but to me, that's just a stronger indicator that you could wait until the second round to get your OT. Kind of the way the Steelers were able to get the 11th best wide receiver, allegedly, in last year's class in Chase Claypool, when that group of elite receivers was only supposed to run 10 deep. You can do that in the second round. Still waiting on Steve to come up with media people saying things about Ben. Someone in the media, Steve, saying things that where they cast doubts on Ben. Might be my new host here. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be the new Jeopardy host? Asked Bobby Cochran. Aaron Rodgers can do anything he wants. My favorite thing about Aaron Rodgers is the fact that he plays in Green Bay, which is like the size of North Versailles, and somehow still became a star, which sticks it to that narrative that you need to go to a big market to fully realize all your star potential. You don't. You don't. We'll find you. We'll find you. Even in Green Bay. Zach asks, when the Penguins are fully healthy, in parentheses, if they ever are, do you think Freddie Gaudreau gets the fourth-line center spot? He'd better, Zach. Again, I don't want to build him up too much. He's 28 years old. He's been around. It's just that he's played so well, and he's been such a good fit for this system and for this team. He was the first guy who was in anything resembling a fourth-line role for this team who made the decision, conscious or otherwise, that I'm not going to be a passenger here. I'm not just going out there to kill time for Sid and Gino. If you think about Mark Jankowski and Colton Sevier and a lot of these other guys, you watch their style of play, they were just chip in, chip out, go back to the bench. Chip in, chip out, go back to the bench. They're killing time. They're killing time. I've seen that in hockey my whole life, and I can't stand it. No matter what line you're on, take some pride. Try to pitch in. Freddie did that, and Freddie made plays. He made plays. He forced his way in. He's done a lot of good things. He absolutely should stay there. Dennis asks if there's any further info about the Halak COVID-19 situation in the Pens. The answer to that is yes. The Penguins had an optional skate today at Madison Square Garden. The Penguins are all systems go for tonight in Madison Square Garden, the game. That is your most powerful and the only one you need indicator that there has been no contact tracing established between Halak playing against the Penguins Saturday and then Halak contracting COVID. Philip asks, will Big Ben stay around next year and be the quarterback's coach or anything with the organization? No, Philip, he will not. He will not. That is not in Ben's DNA. When Ben is done, he will be done. You will see him again when they do those ceremonies and bring guys back and they wave from the end zone while you're waving your towel. That's when you'll see Ben again. It's just, I'm not being mean. He's just not that guy. He's not going to hang around and work a classroom. And on that note, we're still waiting for any signs whatsoever of this criticism or doubts that Ben could be the guy from our man Steve. Matthew asks, will this be Juju's last season in Pittsburgh, or does he have the potential to earn himself a new long-term contract? I would think he does, but I would hope that he earns it. Literally. I would hope that he somehow gets back to that trajectory that he was on as a rookie. I'll accept that he's had knee issues, but knee issues are not a small thing for a professional wide receiver who counts on every millisecond to create separation, who counts on planting on his knee in order to create the sharpest turn in his route. All of that stuff makes a difference. There's a reason that teams didn't pursue him. And as I reported a couple of weeks ago on DK Pittsburgh Sports, that reason was the teams were aware that he wasn't healthy. They were aware that he was having his knee drained every Friday. It's not about the narratives and the TikToks or anything. He just hasn't been as good a football player as he was in 2018. That's all. Ask yourself how many times you saw him break away from the pack in 2018, right? That was the thing that made his name, not the dancing and the whatever else. It was those 75-yard touchdowns on like short passes. Where did that go? You see any of those last year? Dogger asks, will Major League Baseball ever have a cap/competitive balance? I'll believe it when I see it, but I remain hopeful for absolute labor hell coming up this year. That's what I want to see here. Richard asks, which current Pittsburgh Pirates player do you think would make a good coach? That one I can come back at you with zero hesitation. That's Jacob Stallings. Not just because his dad was a coach. I mean, I'm not getting into his tenure at Pitt, but his dad was a coach. His dad was a coach in NCAA Division I basketball. That's an achievement in and of itself. And Jacob has all those traits. He never stops instructing, advising his teammates. I watched him when I was in Bradenton a month ago. This was over at Pirate City, doing blocking drills. There's a machine that's on the mound, and it's spitting baseballs at all different kinds of spins. Who builds these things? Like, what lab creates these things? But the ball comes in with these funny spins, and it goes in at a certain angle in the dirt, and the catcher is not, of course, made to know what's coming because, he generally doesn't know what's coming in a game. And his technique, the way he kept himself so tall, his shoulders were square to the ball, and his ability to just eat the ball, to have his body engulf it. Not only would he do it, but even though Glenn Sherlock, the Pirates catching instructor, was right there on the scene, Jacob would not hesitate to turn to his teammates and say, hey, did you see that? Did you see how I did that? And not in a cocky way, in a really friendly, helpful, I'm trying to make everybody give everybody a chance to be better here kind of way. He is absolutely the guy. Ben says, which Pirates pitcher has the highest ceiling? In a perfect world, you would answer Mitch Keller because he was the number 7 prospect in all of baseball. Not number 7 pitching prospect, number 7 prospect in all of baseball. But he doesn't want to throw strikes. He is lacking fortitude. And if you think I'm being mean when I say that, go look at his pitch chart from the other day. It's embarrassing. I'm talking about in Chicago. It's embarrassing. This is here, I'll hold up my phone. This is your strike zone. See this? Just paint a bunch of red bullets around my phone, right around the edges. That's his performance. He's afraid to throw strikes. If they aren't saying the same thing to him in-house, meaning the coaches, meaning Oscar Marin, then they're derelict in duty. Daniel asks, if the Steelers were to play in, say, Brazil because of the international NFL games, would we see a DKPS crew around here? Daniel, my man, is in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The answer to that is we go everywhere that the Steelers go. We have never missed a Steelers game, never missed a Steelers practice in the 7 years of our website's existence. We're proud of that. In this market, there are only 2 media outlets that cover every game, every practice, every availability, and that's us and the local 250-year-old newspaper. That's it. Nobody else. Some of them don't even bother going to home games. We are everywhere, Daniel. That said, the Steelers are probably not going to Brazil. Art Rooney has made it abundantly clear, even on the record, and even just a week ago, that his preference is to go to Mexico, where the Steelers have their own inherent large fan base down there. People who couldn't find Pittsburgh on a map. And I know that from asking them when we've been down in Dallas and Houston, and I've talked to them out in the parking lots. They just love the Steelers, and I just think that's so cool. And apparently, so does Mr. Rooney. Ryan says, question about the Pens. If they do trade Marcus Pettersson, where does P.O. fit in the lineup? I don't think he fits with Marino or Letang. They all play better with the puck. Where do you see him? I don't think it really is a question. He would literally just take Pettersson's place, which means he would be with Marino. I'm not sure what you mean by Marino plays better with the puck. I know he had a couple of nice rushes in recent games, but Marino has always been really adaptable and really flexible. He just needs to stay on his right side. The only time he's gotten in trouble in the NHL, and it threw him totally out of whack, was earlier in the season when the coaches, and I thought this was ill-advised at the time, put him on the left to try to compensate because, hey, the kid can do anything. I'll bet he can do this too. Well, no, he can't do anything. You won't break up Letang and Dumoulin. You won't break up Ceci and Matheson. That's the criteria. You know, Daniel says, yeah, the Steelers fan base in Mexico is insane. It actually is. It's something to see here. David O'Brien says, Michael Feliz, only reason the man is still on the Pirates roster. You didn't finish your thought there. What would be the only reason he's still on the Pirates roster? Unless you're asking me that, and my answer would be that there's none. He's not very good at baseball. I don't know why he's still there. I mean, he shows stuff, and he's got the big body, and he doesn't get hurt. So maybe that's part of it. But once he's out there and it's a game situation, he's going to give up runs. You know, that's his thing here. Let's see what else we have here. I'm still waiting on Steve Cawthon to come back and give me some names of real media guys, people who work in the media, who are saying bad things about Ben and his potential. I'm not sure if you know what media means, Steve. Media means reporters. Okay? If it's other things and you're talking about the entertainment business, that's not media. Media means reporters. Media means journalists. If you have media who are saying things or writing things about Ben, doubting Ben, bring it to me. But not entertainment stuff. Matt says, what do you think of the transfer portal for hoops? Can Jeff Capel get hit back to winning? All Jeff Capel needs to do is keep some players. And look, I understand that the transfer portal is everywhere. I understand that's affected every program. My own view on this is, while it's nice that players are now blessed to have more options and not get stuck somewhere in a program or have to sit out a year of what should be the prime of their lives, let alone their careers, I really, really think this is going to hurt the college basketball product. I mean, really hurt it. You're going to, as it is, it's tough for a college basketball fan to latch on to a player for 2-3 years, or even the one and dones, since that's been introduced. But this is something else entirely. This is seeing players come into your program and then putting themselves into the transfer portal, possibly for no reason other than to be in there and to just shop, to window shop. I think that's, wow, just potentially devastating. Johnny says, how long is your leash with Mitch Keller? Obviously early in the season, but not looking good. Well, it's not like you're going to give up on him. In fact, the leash and I brought this up in one of my Daily Shot podcasts on the Pirates earlier this week. The leash is on Oscar Marin. If you're the pitching coach and you get the top pitching prospect in your fold, and the owner of your franchise just fired the entire front office, baseball ops, and everyone less than a couple of years earlier, primarily, per Bob Nutting's own words, because he was sick of seeing players do well in Pittsburgh and then go have success somewhere else, you'd better make Mitch Keller better, or else someone will take your job. And then you can start pinning it on Keller. But the answers have to come right now at this phase from the pitching coach. Still waiting for Steve to come up with media people who have ripped Ben and who have doubted Ben. Media meaning journalists, not hot take stuff. Daniel Green says, will Ben run the play action if he's asked to? I read he doesn't like to turn his back to the rush. You don't have to read that, Daniel. You can see it. I mean, he hates it. That's it. And when he has the kind of skepticism that he showed last year about his offensive line, you also don't have to read that. In fact, if you read him saying things about the offensive line, he's going to be praising them when in fact his actions said something else entirely, because he wouldn't take snaps from under center. He wouldn't turn his back to the rush, and he would get rid of the football in an NFL fastest 2.7 seconds. Why? Because he knew they were coming. He wasn't about to badmouth Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, Alejandro Villanueva, Matt Filer, Chooks Okorafor. He wasn't about to badmouth them and put himself at risk further by having these guys not at least try to keep him upright. I'm a big believer that the pass protection and the quality of it was overstated. Dennis says, DK, Steve responded. No, he didn't. He still has not come up with media people. Media people is not radio entertainment. Media people means journalists. Journalists. Still waiting. Matthew says, Major League Baseball just announced the All-Star game is going to Denver. Any thoughts on that? Denver is a great place. I'm not sure what the choice was there. Maybe they owed the Rockies something. I'd have to look into that. They're still going to do the Hank Aaron thing. I guess the location was a bigger priority than having Aaron be tied to the location. That's why everybody, myself included, presumed that once it was out of Atlanta, you were going to see them move the thing to Milwaukee. Still waiting on Steve. Not radio. Journalists. He keeps trying to answer me, and he keeps coming back with radio people. Radio is entertainment. Anyone in radio can tell you that. There's a big, big difference. I'm not knocking one occupation or the other, but they're different occupations, and radio is not media. Media is reporting. Chris asks, love the show, Dejan. I enjoy the differing opinions among the crew, say even on the Steelers draft. Chris, I presume you're referring to our football staff. We've got a bunch of different voices there. We've got Dale Lawley on the beat. Chris Carter does our analysis. They're both knee-deep in draft material. Ramon Foster, of course, is part of our football staff. We're proud of that. Ramon's going to be writing a column about the draft and his thoughts on it for next week. Tom Reed does extensive enterprise work, features work for us. Lots of different voices, and we make sure that they're active. Clay asks, where's your triple mask? I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, but I'm literally sitting in a room by myself. Gary says the Major League Baseball said the Rockies were preparing to put in a bid for it and assured the hotel room as well. At least they were honest. It was all about practicality. That also strikes me as BS because the city of Pittsburgh could have promised the hotel rooms. If you really, really want hotel rooms, you can clear them out. Hotels will find a way to empty out reservations, especially in the aftermath of a pandemic. Waiting on Steve. Steve. Matt says, what did you think of the Texas Rangers opening at capacity? I honestly, I was sickened by it. And I only hope that the 32,000 people who were there are not sickened by it. I hope they're fine. Not only did the Rangers put people in harm's way for absolutely no gain whatsoever, but by all accounts, they gave away tickets because they were trying hard to fill the place to send some visual message of who knows what, probably something politically based. And then on top of that, they didn't have enough staff there to ensure that people followed the stated regulations to wear their masks, and the overwhelming majority of people didn't. We're not out of this. We're not. We can pretend we are. We can pound our fists over it. We're not out of it. We're just not, especially not with the Brazilian variant working its way into the equation now in all 50 states. And really hitting Canada hard, by the way, as well. Richard says, I thought Santana pitched well in spring training. Any idea why the Pirates went out and got Kyle Keller instead of playing Santana? They just don't have – they don't feel like they have enough innings out of who they get, of who they have currently. We're going to take a couple of more here. Steve keeps coming back with entertainers. I'm seeing it here. I'm not showing it to you. He keeps coming back with entertainers, with radio people. I don't know how much simpler I can make this, Steve. Not radio. Not radio. You still haven't come up with a single example of media people who are casting doubt on how Ben Roethlisberger will do for the Steelers this coming season. Tim says, does Pitt wish Jamie Dixon was still there? I mean, think about who's at Pitt right now and ask yourself who would be Pitt. Heather Lyke never worked with Jamie Dixon, so I don't know that she would wish that he was still there. Higher up in the administration? I mean, maybe. I know I do. I mean, I had, and I've acknowledged this openly, I had a great professional relationship with Jamie. Total class act. He filled the place. You know, they were competitive. I don't know that Jamie would still be as effective with these new rules and regulations. His thing was the whole 4 years of Brad Wanamaker and then send him off with a big happy graduation and he go plays in Europe or something like that, as opposed to the one and done and then he goes to the NBA mentality. And for what it's worth, Jamie has not been some great rousing success at TCU. He got off to a good start, but he hasn't exactly killed it down there. Yeah, still waiting. I'll take one more question, then I'm going to kind of wrap up on the Steve thing because there is a point that I want to make here. Keith says, how bleak does the impending Major League Baseball negotiation look? I hope it's bleaker than however it appears. That's the only way this is going to happen. The owners have to band together. This is not about the union. None of these situations where a salary cap was imposed involved the union saying, you know what, we're good with that. We're good with that. Let's put that in. It's always been by the owners banding together. It's still their game. The owners control the game. They just need 3/4 of them feeling the same way. The more acrimonious everything gets, and I believe it'll get really, really bad, and hoping that it gets even worse, the greater the chance of a salary cap system being put in. And since I mentioned the Brazilian variant, Daniel jumps in from Brazil and says, people, the P1 or Brazilian variant is really, really bad. I've witnessed it on the hospitals where I work. Lots of young people infected and lots of lives lost. This ain't BS. Please take good care of yourselves. Yeah, that's the other thing about the Brazilian variant is it's primarily affecting younger people. And you want to make fun of jokes about masks? Yeah, so I'm going to just finish up by saying here that I get a little bit, well, as you've seen today, a lot of it defensive about what constitutes media and what constitutes entertainment. Sometimes that line gets blurred. Skip Bayless came up through the ranks where he did as a journalist, as a columnist, and he was excellent at it. Really, really gifted writer. And he followed journalistic principles, meaning that his opinion was backed by whatever, the kind of stuff that I try to do. Okay? And then he went into the entertainment business. He crossed over. He went to ESPN or wherever it is that he is now. I genuinely don't watch that stuff. And he crossed over into entertainment. He's doing shock stuff. He goes on there and he says stuff so that you turn around to the next person and say, did you hear what Skip Bayless said? That was an outrage. The other person says, equally outraged. Yes, Skip Bayless is a bad, bad person. Yes, I agree he is a bad person. And you know what you didn't talk about in that time? The other responsible journalistic opinion. And that's what they have figured out. That's what these people understand. Unlike my man Steve, who keeps sending me stuff from radio people and insisting that these are journalists. They're not. They might have been at some point in their careers. Okay, they've done stuff, they've written stuff, but what I'm talking about here isn't just the written word. I'm talking about journalism versus entertainment. Does that get blurred? Sure. I'm on local radio. And when I'm on there, believe me, I want to get callers and whatever else here. I understand that it's a different vibe. So when you say radio or entertainment, go ahead and say it. But when you're saying media, you're talking about reporters. I have not seen this thing that people are out to get Ben in the media. They're not. Radio people are. There's a difference. Anyway, thanks to everybody for being here. What a strange episode this has been. Mr. Eric says, good day to write an article in the park. It is really nice outside. I have a bank of windows here in the Strip District where I'm looking out, and it is just gorgeous. And I have a feeling I'm going to head out there and do that. Thank you so much to everybody, including Steve, for being a good sport through this entire episode. Well, this is going to end up being a podcast actually really soon, or I'm going to get in trouble for it. And we will do this again tomorrow at 1:30. Thank you.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.